Hello, my name is Sophia Spungin, and I'm an undergraduate researcher in the Department of Atmospheric and Oceanic Sciences at UCLA. Today, I will be presenting on my work entitled Observed Seasonality of Mixed Layer Eddies and Vertical Heat Transport over the Antarctic Continental Shelf. And this work is in collaboration with Clara C. and Andrew Stewart. Previous studies have given us reason to expect the formation of eddies near coastal polynyas, but their properties and spatial distribution are poorly observed. Here I show a figure from a 2014 modeling study showing eddy formation near an idealized coastal polynya located on a modeled shelf. A recent study by Friedrichs et al. Is an example of one of the few observational studies of eddies near such coastal polynyas. There is also evidence that regions of the coldest and densest shelf may have the strongest circumpolar deepwater transport onto and across the continental shelf. Thus, we believe that observational opportunities in dense shelf regions stand to offer insight into the nature, role, location, and impact of shelf eddies on vertical heat transport in the Antarctic Continental Shelf region. So what kind of observational data exists in these seasonally sea ice covered regions? The Marine Organisms Exploring the Oceans from Pole to Pole, or MEOP consortium, is a collection of quality controlled data sets with basic oceanographic data collected from instrumented marine organisms. In the Southern Ocean, instrumented seals provide conductivity, temperature, depth profiles, and associated GPS coordinates collected during a seal's dive. As seen in this figure, the seals provide a large quantity of casts for analysis on the shelf, particularly in dense shelf regions. Thus, we use seal-collected data to study the impact of shelf eddies on vertical heat transport in the Southern Ocean. We began our analysis by selecting a test seal. Seal 21126 collects data in the northeastern Weddell Sea, a dense shelf region that aligns with a high-resolution model available to validate our results. This seal collected data from February to July of 2011 and spanned a cumulative distance of almost 3,000 kilometers. Here we show profiles of temperature and salinity for this test seal. The yellow line shows a calculated mixed layer depth for this seal, calculated from a critical density difference of 0.03 kilograms per meter cubed. We see a deepening of the mixed layer as the seal moves from the time period that we define as summer, or before May 1st, to the time period we define as winter. Using the Fox Kemper parameterization for vertical heat transport, we also provide estimates of vertical heat flux for this test seal. By replicating the time of year and spatial distribution of seal casts in a particular seal time series, we simulated several seal tracks in a high-resolution regional model and calibrated the parameters based on the actual eddy vertical heat fluxes diagnosed from the model. We see an increased heat flux and an increased cumulative heat transport in the winter months as compared to summer months for this selected seal. This is consistent with deepening of winter mixed layers and greater available energy for mixed layer instability in the winter months. By applying this technique to all available on-shelf seal casts, we produced a map of vertical heat flux averaged by grid cell for the shelf regions. The top panel shows all available summer grid cells and their magnitude of vertical heat flux repeated for winter in the bottom panel. Grid cells colored in red indicate an on average upward vertical heat flux, whereas grid cells colored in blue show an on average downward vertical heat flux. We then calculated regional averages by averaging across grid cells in each previously defined region. The magnitude of vertical heat flux calculated through our methods were similar to those calculated in previous studies, namely in the Weddell and West Antarctic Peninsula regions. Our methods also revealed enhanced wintertime vertical heat transport in dense shelf regions specifically. In conclusion, we saw enhanced wintertime vertical heat flux for our selected seal, as well as enhanced wintertime vertical heat flux when averaging over dense shelf regions. These findings are further supported by calculations of bulk Richardson number and potential density spectral slope performed across available seals and averaged by region and season, with evidence of enhanced mesoscale or potentially submesoscale activity in winter months in dense shelf regions. Our findings suggest that eddy processes in these shelf regions play key roles in transferring heat imported from offshore towards the surface, and thus these processes may influence the magnitude of heat reaching the ice shelves.